I wasn't invited to my brother's wedding. I found out while holding a paper plate of baked beans and coleslaw, standing between the lemonade cooler and a red and white checkered table full of Solo cups. It was June, hot enough that the plastic forks bent if you pressed too hard. Someone's dad had just put on a 90s country playlist, and a toddler nearby was mid-meltdown beside a deflating bounce house. It was my cousin Lisa who broke the news. She strolled over from the grill, tucking a wisp of hair behind her ear with one hand and balancing a bratwurst on a bun in the other. "So," she said, smiling, "are you flying out for Brady's big day or just driving in?" I blinked. "What big day?" She laughed like I was being cheeky. "The wedding, duh. He's finally marrying Haley, Mr. Gelhair himself." I smiled like I totally knew what she was talking about. "Oh, right. Yeah, of course." Then I told her I needed to check on the deviled eggs, which was really just code for hiding out in my car with the AC cranked and trying to breathe through the dull pressure tightening in my chest. Brady's my little brother. I basically helped raise him after Dad passed. I was the one who picked him up when he got busted for skipping class, who helped him land his first job, and who Venmo'd him rent more times than I can count. I stayed on the phone with him during his first breakup and sent him a weighted blanket when he started having panic attacks. And now, he was getting married, with centerpieces, a venue, and a guest list that apparently didn't have my name on it. I sat in my car trying to figure out if I was more angry, hurt, or just plain tired. Answer? Yes. I waited 2 days before I called Mom. Not because I needed to cool off, I wasn't seething. I wasn't even looking for an apology. I just needed to hear her say it, out loud, that they'd planned the whole thing without me. She picked up on the second ring. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, that smooth, practiced tone she always used with grocery clerks and the church secretary. I could picture her at the kitchen counter, wiping it down with a dish towel, phone wedged between shoulder and ear. "Everything okay?" "I just had a quick question," I said, trying not to sound tight. "Is Brady getting married?" There was a pause. A refrigerator door closed. "Well," she said, like I'd asked if the mail had come. "Yes. Next month, actually. We weren't sure if you'd be free." "I didn't know it was happening," I said. She gave a little chuckle. "Oh, Remy, don't be dramatic." That word. Dramatic. She used it when I cried at Dad's funeral, when I called after getting laid off, when I admitted I was struggling and didn't know what to do next. "You always land on your feet," she'd say. "You're the strong one." I let the silence hang. "You know," she went on, "Brady and Haley wanted something small. Just family." "I am family," I said flatly. She sighed. "Of course. But you're always traveling. And these things get complicated. Haley's parents were pretty involved and space was tight. You get it?" I didn't. But I knew better than to argue. Not with Mom. Not about something she'd already decided didn't count. "You're not mad, are you?" she asked, voice suddenly softer. "I'm not sure what I am." There was another pause. Then she said, "We thought it'd be easier this way. Less pressure on everyone. Easier. Not forgotten. Just deleted." I told her I had to hop off. Work stuff. Total lie. I had the day off. She said, "All right, sweetheart," and we ended the call. I stared at my phone a long time. Then I opened Google Flights and bought a round-trip ticket to Alaska. Didn't tell anyone. Not my team at work, not my neighbor who usually waters my plants when I'm gone, not even my best friend, Nate, the guy who knows my DoorDash order better than I do. I just went quiet. That Friday I packed a carry-on, left a sticky note on my fridge. Gone. Don't wait up. And boarded a red-eye from Boston to Anchorage. The flight from Boston to Anchorage was quiet. I didn't bother with movies or reading. I just stared at the flight map, a thin white line stretching across the map like a cold, unbroken scar. By sunrise, I was standing in a cabin carved into the Alaskan wilderness. The air was thin, the mountains in the distance jagged and endless. The cabin smelled like wood and pine, and the heat in the shower smelled faintly of sulfur. I loved it immediately. I didn't check my phone for 24 hours. I spent the first day wandering around, taking in the stillness, the way everything around me felt more alive than I had in months. The only sounds were the wind cutting through the trees, the occasional bird call, and my own breath. On the second day, I walked down to the edge of a frozen lake. There was a wooden bench half covered in snow. I sat there until my fingers went numb, watching the ice crack and settle beneath the still water. The quiet was different here, thick, almost sacred. I took a picture. I wasn't smiling, just a lone figure in a heavy coat, sitting on the bench with the cold sky above me. No pose, no filter, just the image. I posted it to Instagram. Within minutes, the notifications rolled in. Brady. My cousin Lisa. My mom. But no one said a word. And that was fine. The point wasn't for them to comment. The point was that they saw me. Not at the wedding shower. Not at the rehearsal dinner. Not even at the brunch they must have had after the wedding planning session I hadn't been invited to. But here, in this frozen country of glaciers and endless skies, I had become visible again. The next day I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. I just lived, drank black coffee from a chipped mug, watched the fog roll in over the lake, and jotted in my journal. Nothing to do here. No small talk. No pretending I'm okay. No wedding invites. No forced smiles. Just me and the sound of wind against ice. I knew the wedding was that weekend. No one said it out loud to me, but I pieced it together the way you learn things when your family doesn't want you to know, through social media. My cousin Claire posted a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking together, tagged a hotel outside Albany. That was enough. Saturday morning in Alaska was cold and still. I sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the light inch across the icy lake. There were no church bells. No bridal parties gossiping behind closed doors. No white dress. No vows. Just ice, steam, stillness. I imagined it, Brady in a suit, Haley in a wedding dress, my mom looking tearful and proud, and somewhere in the photos, a gap. Not a glaring one, but I knew where I was meant to be, and I wasn't there. That night, I posted one last photo, just my hand holding a ceramic mug against the backdrop of the frozen lake. The sky was a lavender gradient, the mountains distant and quiet. My nail polish was chipped on one finger. Nothing glamorous. Nothing posed. No caption. I could feel the notifications piling up even before I opened my phone. Brady. My mom. Claire. My aunt. Still no one messaged. But this time it was different. This time I felt the weight of it. The quiet had changed. It wasn't absence anymore. It was presence withheld. Let them notice the silence. Let them fill it with whatever story they needed to tell themselves. I wasn't going to give them any more of my energy. I had nothing left to add. 3 days after the wedding, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was barely 6 a.m., and the sky outside was a muted gray, the kind that made you forget the sun ever existed. The buzzing didn't stop. Text messages, missed calls. More texts. At first, I thought something had happened. Maybe someone had passed away. But the names flashing on the screen told a different story. Lenny. Aunt Linda. My mother. Claire. Then finally, the only one who ever told me the truth. Nate. His message was short, direct. You need to see this. He attached a TikTok link. No context, just a thumbnail of what looked like a reception hall and something blurry flying through the air. I hesitated. I didn't know if I wanted to watch. I didn't know if I could stomach it, but I clicked. The video started mid-chaos. Shouting. Screams. People running. Someone knocked over a centerpiece. Then the camera found Brady. He was frozen, caught between two people. His hands raised like he was trying to calm down a room full of wild animals. I couldn't make out what he said. Didn't matter. The crowd had already started to disperse. Guests were whispering, grabbing their coats. One woman still holding her napkin as she walked out of the room. The camera focused on Haley, who was crying, shaking, red-faced, mascara running down her cheeks. She was yelling, but the sound was distorted. And then I heard it. A voice clearer than the rest. Ralph. Brady's best friend. You were my best friend, Brady. My best man. And you were sleeping with her the whole time. The camera panned to Brady's frozen expression, then to Haley. The room was in an uproar. I watched the video twice. Then I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling of my cabin. The wooden beams creaked in the cold. Outside, a bird made a sound I couldn't name. The buzzing started again, voicemails, missed calls, more texts. No one said the words, but they didn't have to. I could feel it. By noon, my phone was blowing up with messages. My mom, Aunt Linda, even Brady's ex-girlfriend from high school. Then another text from Nate. He's not well. He keeps asking for you. Please, just 5 minutes. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't heard from her in years, and now, in the midst of all this mess, they needed me. I didn't respond right away. That afternoon, I sat at the window looking out at the lake, thinking about how my life had been for the last few years. How I'd always been the one holding things together, the one everyone called when they needed fixing. And now, they needed me because everything was falling apart. I thought about the messages, my mother's voice cracking in her voicemails. You've always been the strong one. The one who never asked for help. And yet, when everything went south, they expected me to be there. To fix it. To be the one who held them up again. I didn't respond. Instead, I made a cup of tea, went outside, and let the cold wind cut through me. I watched the sky, the stretch of snow and ice beneath it, and the quiet that finally didn't feel like an empty space. It felt like peace. That evening my phone rang again. This time I answered. It wasn't out of forgiveness. Not because I'd softened. I just didn't want the silence to speak for me. "Remy," my mother said. Her voice was ragged, like she'd been holding it in for hours. I didn't speak. Finally she did. "Brady's a wreck. He barely eats. He won't come downstairs. He keeps asking if you've responded." The sound of ceramic clinking in the background. The same kitchen, the same blue teacup she always used when she needed to appear calm. "I wish you were here," she added quietly. I looked out at the lake. It was frozen over, the sky low and endless. I said finally. "For years. You just didn't see me." There was a pause. "I didn't know you felt that way," she said, her voice thinner now. "You never asked." A deep breath on the other end. "I'm sorry," she said. It wasn't an apology. Not really. More like a realization. A truth neither of us had the words for. And for the first time she didn't try to fix it. No excuses. No sugarcoating. Just the sound of her breathing. The quiet chime of a clock ticking in the background. After a long silence she asked, "Are you coming home?" I looked around at the cabin, the wooden floor, the blanket I had pulled over my legs. The sound of the wind against the windows. "Everything's simple here," I said softly. "Everything's mine." "No," I added gently, "I think I'm finally home." We didn't say goodbye. We just let the call fade. And for the first time in years I didn't feel erased. I didn't feel like I was a piece that didn't fit anymore. I just felt still. The next morning I woke early, wrapped in the thick sweater I'd brought for this kind of cold. I stepped onto the back deck, my feet bare against the frost of the cabin floor. The lake was smooth as glass, reflecting the faint gold of a rising sun. I made tea, wrote a few lines in my journal. Then I pulled out a thick piece of stationery I'd bought months ago, but had never used. I wrote one letter. Short, plain. No accusations. No lists of wrongs or things left undone. I hope you find peace. I hope you tell the truth. I hope next time the invitation comes before the apology. Remy. I signed it, folded it carefully, addressed it to the house I grew up in. No return address. I walked into town, dropped it in the postbox near the bakery, the one that smelled like cardamom and would smoke. On the way back I stopped by the edge of the lagoon. The same bench was there, half buried in snow. I sat for a while, sipping coffee from a paper cup, watching the steam disappear into the air. My phone was still in my pocket, untouched. When I returned to the cabin I posted one last picture. A single wooden chair, empty, framed by snow. Beyond it, the frozen lake. No caption. I knew they'd see it. Not because they followed me, but because people always notice what's missing once it's been gone for too long. That night I didn't check messages. I didn't scroll. I didn't wonder what they were saying back home. Instead I made soup, lit a candle, pulled the blanket over my legs and read the same page of a book 3 times. Not because I was distracted, but because I wasn't in any hurry to leave the quiet. There was no victory in this. No closure. Just clarity. No resolution. Just space. And for the first time in years I didn't feel erased. I just felt still. I'd love to hear about your own experiences with family dynamics. Have you ever felt left out or had a similar situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're interested in more personal stories like this one, be sure to check out my other videos. I'll see you there.